It's June 12th, 2026. I will continue the live reading of the second Murderbot Diaries book, which is Artificial Condition. It's been so long since the other one because we did an intermission to live read Platform Decay while it was still new. It's trash. It's even worse than this book in terms of nothing happening. Yeah, I'll just assume that you are coming directly from the video before this, or if you're not, you don't care. Tapan led the way to our room. This is my highlight to mark where I was. I think I can get rid of it. Yeah. Maybe. Oh, probably the trash can. There were other humans hanging around the dimly lit corridors, and some looked like they might try to approach her, then saw me and changed their minds. I was bigger than they were, and without cameras, it was still hard to control my expression. So again, I know I probably said this at the end of the last video, but I have to say it again. Martha Wells just hates poor people, and right here is portraying poor people as inherently scary and threatening and dangerous. And poor Tapan, this poor woman, can't go anywhere near poor people, gods, the horrors, without having a big, brawny, scary slave to protect her. Tapan doesn't know that Murderbot is a slave, but Murderbot currently sees her as its slave owner, explicitly. Art said, "Tell the human not to touch any surfaces. There may be disease vectors present." Let me. Okay.
Don't touch anything. You might catch poor people disease.
Yeah. Okay. See, this is the difference between my computer and yours. I minimized it, but didn't keep it open because the little recording button's up here, so it blocks some of the words. So I'm like, okay, I'll make it smaller. And it ended the recording. So I'm gonna have to clip these two together. So message me whatever program actually for. What?
Oh, shortcut video editing.
Okay, because I got rid of that because it didn't seem to be working. Anyways, so we go past that. We go from saying the poor people are inherently threatening and scary, and then ART is immediately coming in saying, "Tell the human not to touch any surfaces. There may be disease vectors present." So, literally, poor people are inherently dangerous and threatening and riddled with disease. So this rich person shouldn't touch anything or she might get poor people diseases. And then this isn't said with any kind of like compassion or understanding that it's not these people's fault or anything. This is just presenting poor people as scary and threatening and dirty and disease ridden, so that Tapan shouldn't touch anything. On the way here, I had shared the recording of what I had found at Ganaka Pit. ART said, "This is good news. You are not at fault." I agreed, sort of. I had been expecting to feel better about it. I mostly just felt awful. And we get no other description of what Murderbot's thinking or feeling, and we get told that. We get told that it feels awful. Nothing about any of this is showing us that Murderbot feels awful. It's not portrayed and conveyed through the story at all. We literally have to be told. You wouldn't be able to fucking guess from the things going on here that Murderbot feels awful. That's not conveyed through the goddamn text at all. We just have to literally be told, "I feel awful."
Hey, look! It knows what emotions it's feeling enough to tell it to the audience without an emotion check.
Oh yeah, because if you haven't had the misfortune of reading Platform Decay, Book 13, Story 13 in the series yet, Martha Wells has decided to try and gaslight the audience into believing that Murderbot has never experienced emotions until Platform Decay and doesn't know how to recognize its own emotions, which everybody knows is not true. Yeah, that's really a thing she's doing, along with multiple other things. Once inside the room with the door secured, I saw Tapan's shoulders relax and she took a deep breath. The room was just a square box with pads stored in a cabinet for sitting or sleeping, and a small display surface. Also, square and box. It was just a square box. So it's
Just an empty room.
It's an empty room that happens to be shaped like a square, but we're saying just a square box. Supposed to be implying in some way that it's tiny.
It's just the fucking room that Breck rents in the beginning of Ancillary Justice.
Except that was actual fucking commentary. The room was just a square box with pads stored in a cabinet for sitting or sleeping and a small display surface. So not only do you get bedding, you get a fucking TV. But we're supposed to pretend that this room is so terrible and bad. You get a fucking TV with it. And it's not even a broken TV. It's just a small display surface, which means TV. And it's not even... And on the wall was a tiny, cracked display surface that looked like it hadn't worked since before I'd been activated the first time. Not even saying that. No cameras, no audio surveillance. Wow, how convenient. There was a tiny attached bath with a waste reclaimer and a shower. So
This
we
is
go.
not a tiny fucking box.
So
we
we
have a toilet and a shower
and a working TV. So literally we go from saying it's just a box with some bedding and a display surface, but also it has an attached bathroom with a toilet and a shower. But guys, this room is it's so bad and so scary and so sad, and there's such poor people for being in here. The room that has bedding and a TV and a bathroom with a shower that works. All of these things are functional, by the way. Like,
unless we get told afterwards that they don't.
no, they work. I remember that they work. Oh, he's so cute. At least it had a door. I was going to have to pretend to use it at least twice. Yes, that would be the cap on all the fun I was having today. I created a schedule and set an alarm to remind myself to do it. Look at this little baby. Not that you guys can see him, but he's adorable. And he's so giant, he's like almost regular cat size. Tapan dropped her bag on the floor and faced me. I know you're mad. I tried to moderate my expression. Hello. Is your name Tapan? It's not. What are you looking at? Go back to sleep. Do we have any chocolate? I want chocolate all of a sudden.
Nope.
Damn. I tried to modulate my expression. I'm not mad. I was furious. Again. I can't...
Emotion check. Furious.
It wouldn't even do that.
Yeah.
Literally, Martha Wells in the 13th book in this series is trying to convince everybody that Murderbot has never had or been able to understand emotions until now. And by now, I mean book 13. This is the second book here. Martha Wells can't do anything but lie to her audience and hope we're too fucking... what even? Just hope that we're mythical goldfish and we won't notice. Also, unrelated except for the goldfish comment. Fuck you, Gregory Maguire. Just because you're making references to the golden fish doesn't mean you're doing jack shit. Shut up. You don't even know what that means. And
No,
haven't you read the whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even know what that means.
I knew it means something because you've read the books.
Yeah.
But yes, they don't go anywhere.
Anybody who's read just the whole Wicked series, they don't even know what the goldfish means or what the adepts of magic are. Despite him doing all this stuff with the golden fish. There's no silverfish. I can't remember if the other one was bronze or copper, but they're not in it. And it's like, bro, what is mystery boxes they don't work. Anyways, we'll continue. I thought my clients were I'm not mad. That's dialogue. I was furious. That's just prose. Why I don't need to say that. You guys can see the words. I thought my clients were safe. I was free to worry about my own problems, and now I had a tiny human to look after that I couldn't possibly abandon.
Tiny human?
Yeah, because in this, yeah. You want to laugh about how hilarious that statement is, especially in comparison to Platform Decay?
Who's the tiny human? Is Tapan not a fully grown woman?
She's barely into adulthood. That makes her tiny.
Okay. Sure? What the fuck?
Yes. You mean it's just infantilization?
Especially because we have an actual tiny human in Platform Decay, which is Sophie, who might as well not fucking exist because Martha Wells doesn't know how to write children.
She doesn't even know how to write characters, let alone child characters. Yeah. So now, yeah, isn't that some fucking whiplash for you?
That's hilarious.
Literally, in Platform Decay, Murderbot has a toddler just clinging to it, like, for I don't even know how many pages, completely off screen, but we're supposed to pretend the child's totally there the whole time, even though she hasn't been mentioned in forever. And now we go back to here, and we're referring to an adult as a tiny human, because infantilizing privileged rich people is... Yes, specifically, infantilizing grown adult women is feminism, according to Martha Wells. And this is all for the sake of woobifying slavery, because Tapan doesn't know that Murderbot is a slave. As far as Tapan knows, she has hired a completely mentally healthy person who is just getting paid for a job. She doesn't know that Murderbot sees her as its slave owner because Art is forcing it to re-traumatize itself and reforce itself back into this mindset. Tapan doesn't think she's doing anything wrong, but Murderbot literally sees her as its slave owner. So Martha Wells is infantilizing her and the other two to make it so that Murderbot just has to continue risking its life for rich people, because these are rich people. In case you forgot, these are people, they are engineers or whatever the fuck, some kind of academic sciencey people, and they got hired by a company and literally were getting paid to do their own shit on that company's time. And we're supposed to pretend that they're poor people because literally no actual reason at all. Want to turn that light off so the light's not just on? No. She nodded and pushed her braids back. I know. I mean, I'm sure Rami and Morrow were furious, but it's not like I'm afraid, so that's good.
Is that dialogue?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm turning the light off.
Put me out over here. Sound like Terrence.
Are you yelling at people outside? Are there kitty cats outside you're talking to? Okay, bye. Our cat is meowing out the window, which means there's probably feral cats outside. Watch your little toes, little cutie pie. Thank you. Yeah, this is dialogue. I know. I mean, I'm sure Rami and Morrow were furious, but it's not like I'm not afraid, so that's good. In my feed, Art said, I'm not saying it ART, I don't give a fuck. Art said, what? I have no idea, I told it. I said to Pan, how is that good? She explained, in the creche, our moms always said that fear was an artificial condition. It's imposed from the outside, so it's possible to fight it. You should do the things you're afraid of.
Are we saying that she's married to her siblings?
Huh? No.
Okay, that's just a weird ass fucking way
I
to phrase that.
Maybe. Who the fuck knows?
Because she's talking about her marital partners, and then in the creche, our mom.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That's fucking weird.
Terrifying.
Okay. Let's ignore that.
Where Jade should have been sleeping with her consort brothers.
Yeah, don't forget, Martha Wells does genuinely support incest in her stories. The only reason that Jade in the Books of the Raxura isn't producing offspring with her brothers is because all of her brothers died. And we're just supposed to be fine with that.
Not even blink at that information.
We're just supposed to be like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. She should definitely have had brothers to grow up with and then rape and then have as her sexual property, because that's how that works. It's a revenge matriarchy where Martha Wells tells us misogyny is good. Yeah. Yeah. That's so yeah, she literally does go from I'm sure Rami and Maro were furious, but it's not like I'm afraid, so that's good. And then to that, yeah, not like I'm not afraid. I just need to highlight that because it's stupid. To then saying, in the creche, our moms. So, yeah, okay, I think you're right. Because why else would Martha Wells say our moms in this situation after just referring to her marital partners to now talking about all of their moms collectively? So that's
You're welcome for that horrible real.
I didn't need to know that, but all right, that's just great. So Martha Wells has done it again. So subtly it could possibly be an accident, but it's absolutely not an accident every single other time she's done it explicitly on purpose, including in Witch King, where Kai is expected to marry multiple cousins, all of whom are adults compared to him, and we're not supposed to have any problem with that. My phone is charging, but it's also at 6% battery, because I guess uploading the file is taking too long. So, I'm going to... Gotta sneeze. He chirps. Where are you chirping at? Apparently. So that's great.
You're welcome.
And like again, we wouldn't be pointing this out. I would just accept that this is just an honest editing typo, except Martha Wells has explicitly endorsed incest and eugenics in multiple of her stories where it's absolutely not a fucking typo. If a bot with a brain the size of a transport could roll its eyes, that was what art was doing. I said, that isn't the purpose of fear. They didn't give us an education module on human evolution, but I had looked it up in the hub system knowledge bases. Wow, remember when Murderbot had basic curiosity about things? God damn, I miss these days.
Decay, this gets retconned that Rathy has to randomly tell Murderbot this at some point off screen at some point in the series. And that's why it knows anything about human evolution. Not that it went out of its way, as we're establishing here in Book 2, that happened because it was curious. And instead, it just has to be told this shit by Rathy.
Yeah.
That's why I decided to read Platform Decay when it was new. To just be able to know everything that happens in that goddamn shit and then come back to this and be able to see, here's the retcons, here's the retcons, here's the retcons.
And the fact that her writing is literally getting worse the longer she does it instead of improving. As I just explained to another person who was realizing that looking back through the series, she hasn't changed her writing style in any noticeable way, except that it seems to be getting worse. It's literally not just me and them saying this. Anybody with actual critical thinking skills and actual brain turned on, which too many people are literally happy to proudly admit their brain is turned off on purpose while reading these. Anybody with critical thinking skills notices that the series is getting worse, and Martha Wells' writing is getting worse the longer it goes.
Which is usually the opposite of what happens when you read a series like this. You're supposed to be able to see how the author is evolving and changing and getting better from the first book to the last.
Yep. Want to grab me the applesauce from the fridge? She said, I know, it's supposed to be inspirational. She looked around and went to the cabinet with the seating, but yet just to reiterate, Murderbot was denied education on human evolution, so it took the initiative and looked that up itself. No, just the fact there's applesauce in there somewhere. We just bought some, I'm pretty sure. Or just bring me a spoon and I'll eat one of these cups. But I thought we had a whole thing of applesauce. Oh, I apparently did not actually buy applesauce. I guess I just imagined that. That's really sad.
Tragic.
Tragic. Phone, what are you doing? It's gone to 4% battery even though I paused.
Just put it in airplane mode.
I'm just turning the fucking thing off. Like, what are you fucking... I guess I should take it off the charger. Alright, I'm shutting my phone off. Like, what are you fucking doing? Yeah, just, remember the good old days when Murderbot had bare minimum curiosity about the world around it and thought learning was a thing it could do that it does on its own?
Valuable.
Yeah. The good old days. Crazy. She said, "I know. It's supposed to be inspirational." She looked around and went to the cabinet with the seating pads. She pulled them out, sniffed them suspiciously, then took an aerosol capsule out of a pocket on her back and sprayed them down. What does a capsule mean? Because when you say a capsule, I'm imagining like a Pokeball or like a giant pill-shaped thing. I'm eating some applesauce. I forgot to ask, did you get a chance to do the research you wanted to do here? Yes, it was inconclusive. It had been damningly conclusive. It just hadn't had the revelatory effect I had been, stupidly, hoping for. I helped her pull the rest of the pads out. It's really funny that Martha Wells is saying this thing was damningly conclusive, because it literally was the opposite. We literally didn't get a single shred of evidence that Murderbot was there at all. But we're pretending that was totally wrapped up, guys. That was damningly conclusive.
Stop asking me to finish the plot I set up.
Nobody told her that she had to make Murderbot come here to investigate its backstory, so I don't know why the fuck that is the B-plot. But again, damn, thinking about platform decay, remember when these things had B-plots?
Yep.
God damn, platform decay doesn't have an A-plot, let alone a B-plot. Literally, like, it is astounding how much worse this series gets as it goes on. Let me eat some more fucking applesauce. Applesauce is almost as good as chocolate, I guess. Yeah, platform decay is just absolute fucking garbage. Like this story here, not only does it have a B plot, it has a C plot. Because the whole interaction with art, that's a C plot. And then there's platform decay.
Which is all
Goddamn.
C-plot.
Which is like that it's
Not even C plot, it's D plot.
It's no plot. It's zero plot. And the reason the series is getting worse is because Martha Wells sees the positive reviews. And she sees the people rabidly defending any criticism of her work and saying that this is actually the best writing that anybody's ever seen. Martha Wells literally sees her stans claiming that this is the epitome of writing, and she genuinely fucking believes them. So she's literally getting worse. Because that's what people are telling her, and people are enabling it. So instead of improving, she's actively getting so much worse. It's gonna be so goddamn funny. And again, it had been damningly conclusive, and then we didn't get a single shred of evidence that Murderbot was actually there at all.
We're just told that it's conclusive.
It was literally not conclusive. It didn't prove anything. at all. And not even accounting for the fact that somebody could have just fucked with the computers afterwards.
Including
Because, yeah, including Murderbot, to make it seem like that was what was there. A thing that Murderbot does at several points in the series.
I'll also mention, the whole reason we read Platform Decay, especially live reading, is to show exactly how having a bad ending ruins an entire series retroactively. Because now we know where we go to from here. It's not in question. We know exactly where we end up. And it's not even the last book yet. And so now all this shit that we're suddenly being told here is totally true. Sorry, that all gets retconned. So it's not. Sorry. That's how this works.
Which parts?
Murderbot seeking out information on human evolution.
Uh-huh. Nope, that actually didn't happen according to the future thing.
That was all Rathy's idea.
Yep. We got them, again. I helped her pull the rest of the pads out. That's better. We got them arranged on the floor and sat down. She'd looked at me and bit her lip. You're really augmented, aren't you? Like, a lot. Like more than someone would choose voluntarily. It wasn't a question. I said, yes? She nodded. Was it an accident? I realized I had my arms wrapped around myself and was leaning over like I was trying to go into a fetal position. I don't know why this was so stressful. Tapan wasn't afraid of me. I had no reason to be afraid of her. Maybe it was being here again and seeing Ganaka Pit again. Some part of my organic systems remember what had happened there. In the feed, Art started to play the soundtrack to Sanctuary Moon, and weirdly, that helped. I said, I got caught in an explosion. There's not much of me that's human, actually. Both these...
That is an actual cute fucking interaction that Art is playing the theme song to Sanctuary Moon to help Murderbot calm itself down. But also that will literally never happen again, and it just...
And also...
even more than it is for
and
me.
also, and weirdly, that helped, except we already did this, so I don't know why we're acting like it's weird, because remember, Art also did this before. Because we commented on that. Both of those statements are true. The statement, there's not much of me that's human, is true. Again, confirming Murderbot is literally a fucking dehumanized cyborg. She stirred a little, as if debating what to say, then nodded again. I'm sorry I got you into this. I know you know what you're doing, but I have to try. I have to see if this guy really has our files. Just this once, and then I'll go back to the transit ring. In my feed, Art turned down the soundtrack to say, young humans can be impulsive. It's so goddamn funny that we're pretending these adults are young humans. And then Platform Decay has a literal toddler who doesn't exist. Oh my gosh.
And a person who's definitely not a toddler, but might as well be a toddler, but also might as well be a dog, much like Sandra Broken Toes. And is also then randomly acts like a full, almost adult teenager, like you would expect this person to act like.
Uh-huh. Young humans can be impulsive. The trick is keeping them around long enough to become old humans. That is what my crew tells me, and my own observations seem to confirm it. Wow, the trick to getting people to be old is to not let them die before they can become old? Wow, that's really wise. I couldn't argue with the wisdom dispensed by Art's absent crew. I was joking. I was joking, but we're literally supposed to think that's wise. Wow, the trick is keeping young humans around long enough so they can become old humans. That's really wise, I say, and then we're literally supposed to think that's wise. Okay. I remembered humans had needs and asked Tapan, did you eat? She had brought some meal packs with the hard currency card. The hard I don't know, I need something sweet. I am hungry. Would you like to... You can stop.
Did she buy it with a hard currency card, or did Murderbot buy it with a hard currency card?
She did, with a
She bought these packs with a singular hard currency card. I guess she's broke now because she spent all her money. Because, guys, in Platform Decay, we get the retcon that hard currency cards, they don't operate like a credit card or a debit card. No. You physically exchange them for goods and services directly. It's cash.
Bills, but it's hard.
It's a dollar bill that's plastic instead of parchment and linen. Hard currency cards are not debit cards, and they never have been, according to Platform Decay, because they suddenly transform into just cash and are used like cash. And they're lucky if places accept cash.
I'm hungry. We don't have anything else over there that's edible at the moment. Wait, I can check the freezer.
Just watch out for an avalanche.
Okay, I found some Uncrustables to thaw. So
yeah, Japan spent all her money because she used a hard currency.
She used
a singular hard currency.
A singular hard currency card. Which you would assume if somebody says, hey, I paid for these with my currency card. You'd think, oh, your debit card, your bank card, your credit card. Nope, not according to Platform Decay, because Martha Wells is a shit fucking writer who doesn't know what she's doing and doesn't even give a fuck enough to reread her own books that she supposedly loves. So Japan bought these with a singular currency card. Wow, she spent a single dollar and got all these things, and now her dollar is gone, I guess. Even though, they also what?
There's a meme of, how much money do you have? $5. And what does that mean? I can't afford chicken nuggets. It's some kind of fucking
Okay.
meme about
So not only did Japan spend that single dollar on food packs, she also bought this room. Because remember last time we found out that hard currency cards usually can't be traced, except for corporations and non-corporations. So they can be tracked, but only by everybody. and now she bought food and this room with a single currency card, which in Platform Decay translates to $1, a single dollar. A single dollar bill. A pound, I guess, if you're British. I don't even know if that's actually the equivalent. I don't know any other forms of currency. Yeah. So that's something to look forward to. She had bought some meal packs with the hard currency card and had them stuffed in her bag. She offered me one, and I told her my augments required me to have a special diet, and it wasn't time for me to eat yet. She accepted that readily. Humans apparently don't like to discuss catastrophic injuries to digestive systems, so I didn't need any of the corroborating detail Art had just researched for me. I asked her if she liked media, and she said, also, fuck everybody who claims that augmented humans don't represent disabled people. Fuck you. This is explicit confirmation if it weren't obvious enough to literally anybody who's ever actually read any goddamn sci-fi involving cyborgs. If you think cyborgs don't represent physically disabled people, you're just shit at reading and have no idea what you're talking about. And here we are getting explicit goddamn confirmation that, yeah, that's what it is. But people still want to act fucking like, oh, I didn't read that part. even though I read these books totally 20 times. And by read these books, I mean I listen to them while I'm at work, while people are talking to me. Wow. I asked her if she liked media, and she said yes. So I sent her I asked her if she liked TV. Just the concept of TV. Not like that's and Murderbot saying that isn't like I asked her a question that was accidentally awkward by asking her, "Hey, do you like TV?" And then just that. So I sent some files to the and like that would have been such a character moment. Let's rewrite this scene, shall we? I asked her if I said, "Do you like media?" She said, what kind?" "Media, media." And then she has to explain the concept of genres to Murderbot and specific TV shows to Murderbot. Imagine if that was a character scene right here. She looked at me strangely. "You mean, what are you trying to ask what genres I like? I mean, I like sci-fi, sometimes fantasy." And then Murderbot's like,
What's fantasy?
"What's fantasy? What's that?" And then realizing, oh, that it's not just different TV shows, there's genres of TV shows, and it gets explained what a genre is. And then realizes its favorite genre is sci-fi too. So I sent some files to the display surface in the room, and we watched the first 3 episodes of World Hoppers. Art was pleased, and I could feel it sitting in my feed, comparing Tapan's reactions to the show to mine. When Tapan said she wanted to try to sleep, I shut down the display. She curled up on her pad, and I lay down on mine and continued watching in the feed with Art. 2 hours and 43 minutes later, I caught a ping from right outside the door. I sat up so abruptly, Tapan woke with a start. I motioned for her to be quiet, and she subsided back on the pad, curling around her pack, looking worried. I stood and went to the door, listening. I couldn't hear any breathing, but there was a change in the background noise that told me there was something solid on the other side of the metal door. Cautiously, I did a limited scan. You see how good Murderbot's hearing is right now? It's fucking doing echolocation and shit. Like, not specifically echolocation, but its hearing is so good that even though it can't hear breathing, because there is no breathing, it can tell that there's a solid object on the other side of the door. You notice what's missing? Do you notice what's missing? Telltale sounds of joints moving. That means it's a sec unit. Because wasn't that mentioned in Platform Decay?
Yep.
Yeah. That's missing. It's almost like, that's not a fucking thing. Cautiously, I did a limited scan, and I am once again asking what the fuck Murderbot is scanning with. Yes, there was something out there, but no sign of weapons. What are you fucking scanning with? Is Murderbot just shooting radiation through the door right now? That would be fucking funny if it was. Does it have fucking X-ray vision? I checked the ping and saw it, and again, let me rewind. 2 hours and 43 minutes later, I caught a ping from right outside the door. I checked the ping and saw it had the same signature as the ping I had caught in the public area during the meeting with Talisi. You notice how we're treating pings in here compared to, all the other shit later? The sex bot was standing on the other side of the door. It could have been following me all this time. It could have been watching me on the security cameras, tracking me sporadically through the port when I came back within range. That was not a comforting thought. It had to belong to Talisi. If it had been watching me, it would have missed Tapan's unexpected exit from the private shuttle, but would have seen her again when we met up in the main hotel or on the way here. Damn it. But now I knew that. If it hadn't pinged me, I wouldn't have realized it was in play. Yeah, you hear that? What do we think that means about this person and their motivations, everybody?
Trying to help Murderbot without getting instantly brain fried.
Yeah. But we don't take that into consideration. If it hadn't pinged me, I wouldn't have realized it was in play. Why is it here? I asked Art. I assume that's a rhetorical question, it said. There was only one way to find out. I acknowledged the ping. The moment stretched. Then it reached out to my feed. It was cautious, the connection almost tentative. It said, "I know what you are. Who sent you?" I replied, "I'm on a contract to a private individual. Why are you communicating with me?" Sec units on the same contract don't talk, either verbally or on the feed, unless they absolutely have to in order to perform their duties. Communicating with units in different contracts has to be done through the controlling hub systems, and sec units don't interact with comfort units anyway. Could this be a rogue sex bot? If it was rogue, why was it here on Ravi High Rao? I didn't know why anybody would stay here voluntarily, including the humans. No, it made more sense if Talasi owned its contract and had sent it here to kill Tapan. Let's just backtrack a bit. So the whole sec units never communicate with each other in any way on contracts because Martha Wells, as a white woman, said, "I'm going to write a story about slavery where the slaves don't give a single fuck about each other in any way and have never, ever, 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 ever willingly talked to each other, but also they worship their slave owners." Because Murderbot does, and Murderbot's one of the good ones. No. It made more sense if Talasi owned its contract and had sent it here to kill Tapan. Also, there's no reason for Talasi to be doing this. There's an astounding lack of proper motivations, but not as bad as they'll get in platform decay. If it tried to attack my client, I would tear it apart. Because Murderbot is a fucking serial killer who worships slave owners and hates other slaves, and we are supposed to think Murderbot is a good person. Because of this. Because, see, it's so protective of its slave owner. It's so protective of Tapan, who it literally thinks is its slave owner because it's that traumatized. Yeah, that's so cute, says Martha Wells. Tapan, sitting on the pad and watching me worriedly, mouthed the words, "What is it?" I opened a secure channel to her and said, "Someone is outside the door. I'm not sure why." I don't know, I have something in my eyeball. That was mostly true. I didn't want to tell Tapan what it was, since that seemed to lead directly to me telling her what I was, which I didn't want to do. Can you imagine the timeline that would happen here if Murderbot actually told Tapan that it was an escaping slave? Imagine. If we pretend that Tapan is even remotely a good person, imagine what would happen. We know she's not a good person, because she's a rich fucker. But imagine. Though if I had to destroy it in front of her, I was going to have a lot of explaining to do. The sex bot replied, "This is you," and sent me a copy of a public news burst. It was from the station, from Port Free Commerce. This time the headline was, "Authorities admit a sec unit unsecured and location unknown." Uh-oh, Art said. I closed the story by reflex, like that would make it not exist. After 3 seconds of shock, I made myself open it again. God damn, these are literally the good old days when Murderbot has the barest hint of a fucking personality. God damn, platform decay is so fucking bad. It is so fucking funny. Be careful, little kitty, you're gonna tilt it if you step on it like that. Unsecured is what they call rogue sec units when they want humans to listen and not just start screaming. It meant that the knowledge that I had hacked my governor module. No, we actually don't have a had. It meant the knowledge that I had hacked my governor module was no longer confined to me and the members of Preservation Aux. They must have been at the stage where everyone in the 2 survey groups who had survived was being interviewed, and they would have to guarantee bonds to assert they were telling the truth. They would have to guarantee bonds to assert they were telling the truth. And having a bond means you're paying somebody to it means you're paying somebody to do something. So are we saying that they are paying people to tell the truth in criminal justice courts in this setting? They would have to guarantee bonds to assert they were telling the truth. Are you hearing this? Is this saying they are getting paid to tell the truth? Or are they getting, or they having to pay people, and then they're saying there's, what the fuck does this mean? I'm highlighting this. This is, what does that fucking mean? Because that just sounds like a bribe to me.
Because as we all know, paid testimony is always true testimony.
Like, literally, what is this saying?
I mean,
They were being interviewed, and they would have to guarantee bonds to assert they were telling the truth. What does that mean?
Are we saying that the witnesses have to pay a fee?
I don't
witnesses
know.
have to pay to give their testimony?
I don't fucking know.
I don't think
Either way you look at whatever the fuck this statement is trying to say, either the witnesses are being paid to tell a very clear story that the court has agreed is going to be the official story, or the people being interviewed have to pay to be able to testify, which wouldn't be what's happening because people want to interview them, not the other way around. I think we're supposed to be saying that they are getting paid to tell the truth, which is just describing being bribed to tell the story that people want them to tell. Wow. All right.
This is what happens when you think about the fucking words in this book.
Yeah. You're supposed to actually know what words mean and what sentences mean before you write them and before you publish them. What are we literally, what are we fucking saying here? You literally, so frivolous lawsuits would exist in this setting because you get paid to testify. That actually sounds like a hilarious concept for a story. Here's a capitalist dystopian story for you. Your main character is a fucking person who just goes around getting paid to say shit in trials. And gets paid to be a witness, a fake witness in trials. There you go. Do that, because, yeah, that's okay. So, Preservation Ox, the poor little underdogs, they're getting paid to be interviewed. A lot. In court. By the corporations. They were supposed to pretend are super cheap. So the company knew now that I had hacked my governor module. So we're just saying that the Preservation Ox team just gave Murderbot up for money. For money. Wow. They only gave Murderbot up because of personal gain. OMG.
They only rented Murderbot out for personal gain.
Yeah. They only rented out a slave because it personally benefited them and monetarily benefited them to do so. Oh my gosh. Why do you think that's a bad thing? That's the argument people in this fandom will use to justify the Preservation Ox team enslaving Murderbot, because, but don't you know it's cheaper to have a slave than to hire somebody? It's like,
it's also cheaper
yeah,
to ChatGPT to shit out a book than it is to pay an author.
That's not even a good, like, we're literally talking about slavery here, and people will be like, literally will defend it by saying, well, it's cheaper to use a slave. It's like, okay, what are you telling me you would use slave labor if that were an option for you explicitly? Because, like, yeah, it's cheaper because you are enslaving somebody instead of hiring somebody that you're paying. Martha Wells is training people to be white supremacists. So now we're just casually saying that the Preservation Ox team just immediately folded and gave up Murderbot's information to everybody. Because, checks notes, the sentence before now, they would have had to guarantee bonds to assert they were telling the truth. What does that fucking mean? Are they literally getting paid to snitch on Murderbot and then they all just did that? Because as far as we know, nobody survived the situation except the Preservation Ox team, I'm pretty fucking sure.
Yep.
Like, yeah, the sentence up here literally says, the knowledge that I had hacked my governor module was no longer confined to me and the members of the Preservation Ox team, meaning they were literally the only fucking survivors. So they literally did fucking they just snitched on Murderbot for monetary gain. Instead of, there's no reason they're still in the corporation room. They could leave at any time. Mensa hasn't been kidnapped yet. Explicitly. They can just leave. So they will it. Yeah, probably Garthan just snitched on Murderbot instantly without a struggle and got paid for it. And wow, Mensa did promise Murderbot that they would never tell anyone that its governor module was hacked, and then they immediately did that. Wow, I can't get over this. Wow. And they got paid to snitch on it too. Wow.
Yep.
So now the company knew that I had hacked my governor module. That was terrifying, even though I had expected it. It was one of the reasons Mensa had made sure to get me off inventory and out of the deployment center as soon as I came out of repair and reconstruction mode. You mean Mensa, the person we just explicitly got told betrayed you? Or at least one of her friends betrayed you, and then she immediately forgives them, and we are never supposed to be upset with any of them for doing this ever? It was definitely Garthan. But next time Garthan shows up, we're just supposed to say, oh, it's so Garthan! I love Garthan! It's been so long since we saw this piece of shit asshole! I love him so much! That's what we're supposed to do. And then the next time he appears after that, him and Murderbot are just BFFs. Is my phone not exploding yet? Okay. I'll charge it now while it's turned off. Maybe. Okay, it's figuring it out. It's at 4% battery, so let's see if it'll charge while it's turned off or whatever the fuck was going on. Yeah. So Garthan just and Garthan's allowed to go back to preservation after all of this, despite taking money to snitch on the slave that saved all of their lives and killed it and tried to kill itself.
It could have been Rathy.
I mean, true. I'm being generous by assuming it was Garthan, the dude who already hated Murderbot's guts, but it literally could have been Rathy, could have been fucking Mensa, could have been Arata, Overse, Pinley, Bardwaj, Valescu. Yeah. What in the fuck? And we're just supposed to be fine with this. We're just supposed to gloss over this and never think about it. And they got paid to betray Murderbot. And they took that money and said, fuck yeah, I will betray that slave. Give me that goddamn money. Wow. Expecting it and having it happen were two different things. Something I learned the first time I got shot to pieces. And you notice that's never actually happened on screen either, and it never will. I skimmed the story in dread and then read it again, closely. The solicitors for several sides in the ongoing legal and civil battles had asked Preservation to produce the Sec unit who had recorded all the damning evidence against Grey Chris. This was unusual. It's not like Sec units can testify in courts. Our recordings are admissible, just like recordings from a drone or security camera or any other inert device, but it's not like we're supposed to have opinions or a perspective on what we record. After some back and forth, Mensa's solicitor had admitted isn't that just Pinley?
Yes.
Why are we saying Mensa's solicitor like it wouldn't just be Pinley? Why has Mensa hired a lawyer besides Pinley?
She wants to lose, obviously.
Also, I think it's very funny that Martha Wells is saying solicitor instead of lawyer to make it seem like the story's like more British and I guess more refined, which is just very entertaining to me because that's not how it works. After some back and forth, Mensa's solicitor, Pinley, or are they just paying the corporations the corporation people money for everything. Like, what are you doing? Mensa's solicitor had admitted that she had lost track of me. They phrased it as, released on my own recognizance, as constructs are considered legal sentience under preservation law.
But they're not.
But they're literally not. Again, is Mensa's solicitor Pinley, or did she just hire a random corporation lawyer for some fucking reason? As constructs are considered legal sentience under preservation law, even though that's also not true. But the journalists hadn't been fooled by that either. There were a lot of sidebar links to attached articles about constructs, about sec units, about rogue sec units. There was no mention that this particular unit had a little problem with murdering the client supposedly under its protection before, but I had the feeling the company had already destroyed any records relating to Ganaka Pit, so they couldn't be produced under court injunction. Again,
I thought they didn't delete it from local memory. Or it's not like they disappeared people to make people forget it happened. They're too good. We're good guys. We're shilling for them.
Yep. Also, what court is this? What court is this?
What government is holding court? Who are the corporations answering to?
There's no world building here, and none of it makes sense. Who exactly are these countries, which is what these corporations are? They're countries in and of themselves. What court are they going to, and why?
Are they beholden to? That's the word I was trying to think of earlier.
Mm-hmm. Tapan whispered, "Are you talking to them? The person?" "Yes," I told her. "To the sex bot," I said. "That's an interesting story, but it has nothing to do with me." It said, "It's you. Who sent you?" I said, "That's a story about a dangerous rogue sec unit. No one would send it anywhere." "I'm not asking because I want to report you. I won't tell anyone. I'm asking, there's no human controlling you? You're free?" I could feel art in my feed, carefully extending itself out toward the sex bot. "I have a client," I told it. I had to distract it if Art was going to be able to get any info. Even though it was a sex bot, it was still a construct, still a whole different proposition from a pilot bot. "Who sent you here? Was it Tlacey?" "Yes, she is my client." As a comfort unit, not a sec unit. Sending a comfort unit into this situation was morally irresponsible and a clear violation of contract. I'm guessing the sex bot knew that. Art said, "It's not rogue. Its governor module is engaged, so it's probably telling the truth."
And Art can just detect this?
But it's not going to disengage this person's governor module and free them, because Martha Wells hates slaves.
And especially hates slaves that she will frame as sex workers. And because they're framed as sex workers, they're
going to
gross
demonize
and
them.
dirty. And because she hates sex workers. But she also wants characters to have casual group sex when it doesn't mean anything. But it's also bad if people watch porn and evil.
Yep. Also, it's not rogue. Its governor module is engaged, therefore it's telling the truth. Which doesn't really... that's not... whatever. I asked Art, "Can you hack it from here?" There was a half-second pause while Art explored the idea. Art answered, "No, I can't secure the connection here. It could stop me by cutting off its feed." So we actually get a justification for Art not doing that. Doesn't explain why Murderbot's not doing it.
Yep. Or why Art suddenly has this ability.
Mm-hmm. I told the sex bot, "Your client wants to kill my client." It didn't reply. I said, "You told Tlacey about me." It must have recognized what I was during that first meeting. If it hadn't been sure, seeing the damage I had done to the 3 humans Tlacey had sent would have been all the confirmation it needed. Because, as far as Martha Wells knows, it's impossible for a regular person to just beat up people in a sci-fi story with cyborgs. No, that's impossible. It's impossible to beat up people. You know. That's totally impossible. I was seething, but Murderbot's seething. Guys, it's seething. It's so angry right now. Murderbot was really fucking angry right now. I was seething. Oh, and again, Murderbot recognizing and naming its emotions. Yeah, Martha Wells will sure as fuck hope you don't remember that being a thing by the time you get to Platform Decay. I was seething, but I kept it out of the feed. As I told Art, bots and constructs can't trust each other, so I don't know why it made me angry. I wish being a construct made me less irrational than the average human, but you may have noticed this is not the case. And again, Murderbot is blaming the slave for being forced to say things that it has no way to say no to, instead of freeing the slave right fucking now, which it can do at any goddamn point. I said, your client sent a comfort unit to do a sec unit's job. It countered, she didn't know she needed a sec unit until today. It added, I told her you were a sec unit. I didn't tell her you were a rogue. I wondered if I could believe that, and I wondered if it had tried to explain to Lacey the impossibility of this assignment. What do you propose to do? There was a pause, a long one, 5 seconds. We could kill them. Well, that was an unusual approach to its dilemma. Kill who? Lacey? All of them. The humans here. I leaned against the wall. If I had been human, I would have rolled my eyes. Though if I had been human, I might have been stupid enough to think it was a good idea. Because Martha Wells thinks that slave rebellions are stupid and cringy and cliche and embarrassing. I also wondered if it knew a lot more about me than what little was in the news burst. Picking up on my reaction, Art said, What does it want? To kill all the humans, I answered. I could feel Art metaphorically clutch its function. If there were no humans, there would be no crew to protect and no reason to do research and fill its databases. It said, That is irrational. I know, I said. If the humans were dead, who would make the media? It was so outrageous. It sounded like something a human would say. So, you know how Martha Wells keeps complaining that everybody's bad at writing robots and that she's the ultimate authority on how to write robots, and then she just does the exact same thing she complains about other people doing? It's hilarious. And this is Martha Wells saying, the very concept of slaves revolting is stupid and embarrassing and cringy, and only a human would think that's a good thing, and that's stupid of you. It was so outrageous, it sounded like something a human would say, because Martha Wells wants us to think that slavery is a good thing. Huh. I said to the sex bot, is that how Lacey thinks constructs talk to each other? There was another pause, only 2 seconds this time. Yes. Then, Lacey believes you stayed behind to steal the files for the tech group. What did you do for so long in the feed blackout area? I was hiding. Not my best lie. Does Lacey know you want to kill her? Because the kill all humans thing might have come from Lacey, but the intensity under it was real, and I didn't think it was directed at all humans. She knows, it said. Then, I didn't tell her about your client. She thinks they all left on the shuttle. She only wanted me to follow you. A code bundle came through the feed. You can't infect a construct with malware like that, not without sending it through a sec or hub system. You know how I pointed that out in Platform Decay? That we act like you can actually infect somebody with malware by sending them stuff through the thing? Yeah, Martha Wells forgets she said this later, everybody. Because she's a shit writer who doesn't give a fuck about her own goddamn story, even though she expects us to pay outrageous amounts for it. Even though I would have to apply it, even then, I would have to apply it, and without direct orders and a working governor module, there's no way to force me to do it. The only way that code can be applied without my assistance is through a combat override module via my data port, which we've already retconned. It might be killware, but I was not a simple pilot bot, and it would mostly just annoy the hell out of me. So maybe to the point where I tore the door off the wall and ripped the head off a comfort unit. Because Murderbot is a fucking serial killer who worships slave owners and wants to murder other slaves at every opportunity. So here we have a slave Murderbot knows is being forced to try and assassinate Murderbot, even though they are not even remotely equipped to do that, and Murderbot is aware of this and even called it morally irresponsible. And yet, if the slave is forced to follow its orders that Murderbot says are morally irresponsible, Murderbot wouldn't react by doing anything except murdering the slave out of rage, despite just fucking admitting it has no choice in being here. But it wouldn't free them, wouldn't knock them unconscious in the least harmful way possible. No, it would rip their head off and kill them to punish them for being forced to follow orders and being more enslaved than Murderbot is. I could just delete the bundle, but I wanted to know what it was so I knew how furious to get. It was small enough for a human's interface to handle, so I shunted it aside to Japan. I said out loud, "I need you to isolate that for me. Don't open it yet." She signaled assent through the feed and pulled the bundle into her temp storage. The other thing about killware and malware is they can't do anything to humans or augmented humans. That's like the one of the few times in this entire series that differentiating is helpful, because that's fucking relevant information. Also, that's absurd. The fact that malware doesn't do anything even to cyborgs. Wow, Martha Wells, you're so good at writing. The sexbot hadn't said anything else, and I sent a ping in time to feel it withdraw its feed. It was walking away down the corridor. I waited until I was sure, then stepped back from the door. I debated staying here or moving to Pan. Now that I knew something was hacking the security cameras to watch me, I could use countermeasures. I probably should have been doing that from the beginning, but you may have noticed that for a terrifying murderbot, I fuck up a lot. Wow.
You said that there were no security cameras in here.
Yeah.
Or does it mean the station in general?
It means the station in general. It's gone, I told Tapan. Can you check out that code bundle for me? She got that inward look that humans have when they're deep in their feed. After a minute, she said, "It's malware. Pretty standard. Maybe they thought it would get your augments, but that's kind of amateurish for Talasi. Hold it. There's a message string in here attached to the code." Art and I waited. Wow, Tapan is literally doing more than any of the fucking characters in Platform Decay, including Murderbot.
Including 3.
Mm-hmm. Tapan's face did something complicated, settling on worry. "This is weird." She turned to the display surface and made the completely unnecessary gesture that some humans can't help doing when they send something from their feed to the display. Martha Wells doesn't understand how anything works. So, Martha Wells is claiming that humans do completely unnecessary gestures when they're moving things from the feed, except Murderbot and Martha Wells. You grasp that people using interfaces is not the same thing as having augments like Murderbot, so the hand gestures are probably fucking built into the goddamn interfaces. It was the message string, 3 words. "Please help me." I moved us to a different room, near an emergency exit in another section of the hostel. The sexbot might be alert for hacking, so I removed the access plate, manually broke the lock, and replaced the plate again while Tapan watched the corridor. Once we were inside, I told Tapan some of what the sexbot had said, mostly the part about how it claimed Talasi didn't know Tapan was here. And then in parentheses, I didn't tell her our visitor had been a sexbot because Talasi had figured out what I was, and I didn't want to waste any more human bodyguards on me. End parentheses. But we don't know that that's true, or that this operative won't tell Talasi you're here now. Tapan looked confused. "But why did they tell you anything?" That was a good question. "I don't know. They don't like Talasi, but it might not be the only reason." Tapan bit her lip, considering. "I think I should still try to keep the meeting. It's only 4 hours from now." I'm used to humans wanting to do things that can get them killed. Maybe too used to it. Wow, do you see this? Do you see this in book 2? This is why anybody had any fucking hope for the series. I'm used to humans wanting to do things that can get them killed. Maybe too used to it. I knew we should leave. Wrong button. I knew we should leave now, but I needed time to hack enough of the security system to get past the sex bot. Once I did that, it seemed wrong not to wait the short time to make the meeting, which Tapan was reasonably sure Talisi didn't know about. Reasonably sure. It was probably a trap. I needed to think. I told Tapan I was going to sleep for a while and laid down on my... Cat, you're so loud. And laid down on my section of the padding. Are you ready for this part?
Yes.
My recharge cycle isn't obvious, but it doesn't look like a human sleeping, so what I was actually going to do was play some media in the background of my feed while I worked on my security countermeasures and looked up my old module on risk assessment. Yeah. 32 minutes later, I heard movement. I thought Tapan was getting up to go to the restroom facility, but then she settled on the pads behind me, not quite touching my back. I set my breathing to sound deep and even, like a human sleeping, with occasional random variations to add verisimilitude, so the fact that I had frozen in place wasn't obvious. I had never had a human touch me, or almost touch me like this before, and it was deeply, deeply weird. Calm down, Art said, not helpfully. I was too frozen to respond. After 3 seconds, Art added, "She's frightened. You are a reassuring presence." I was still too frozen to answer Art, but I upped my body heat. Over the next 2 hours, she yawned twice, breathed deeply. "Mr. Lupin!" "Hey, get down. Get down." Want to stick him on the tower so he remembers he can run around like a little maniac on there?
If he does it again.
She yawned twice, breathed deeply, and snorted occasionally. At the end of that time, I changed my breathing and moved a little, and she immediately slid off my pad and over to hers. By that time, I had a plan. "He's just climbing the curtains. Mr. Lupin, you shouldn't be doing that. You have a whole cat tower."
It's also just creepy that she's just sitting there watching Murderbot sleep, and that we're supposed to think this is cute. She's not even curling up to sleep beside it. She's just sitting there watching it.
Yeah. And Murderbot is a complete stranger, and she's a fucking adult, and is just doing this. Yeah, like that's not completely fucking creepy.
Snorting occasionally.
I think that's supposed to be snoring, but yeah.
She wrote snoring.
Stick him on the cat tower. He's getting ready to jump up there again.
Because Polychrome is there. Like, whoa, here we go.
Taz is on the books. Hold on, I have to rescue books.
Coming out. They already got clawed by you guys. Come on out, Taz. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. You don't need to ruin those books. Scoot your butt. Thank you. Scoot your little butt. Thank you. Good girl. Good girl.
And then we have a scene break. I convinced Tapan that I should go to the meeting and she should get on the public shuttle to the transit ring immediately. She was reluctant. "I don't want to abandon you," she said. "You're only involved in this because of us." That hits... Hey, that is your food bowl. Why do you keep sweeping it? That hit home so hard my insides clenched. I had to lean over and pretend to look through my bag to hide my expression. Company emergency protocol allows clients to abandon their sec units if necessary, even in situations where the company might never be able to retrieve them. Tapan was making me think of Mensa, yelling that she wouldn't leave me. I said, "It'll help me the most if you go back to the transit ring." It took a while, but I finally convinced her this was for the best for both of us. Tapan left the hostel ring, wearing both extra jackets from her pack to change her body shape and with the hood of one pulled up to conceal her hair and shadow her face. In parentheses, this was mostly to make her feel more confident and because I didn't want to explain the extent to which I could gain temporary control over portions of Rabbi Hyral's admittedly not great security system. End parentheses. I watched her on the security cameras, and also that didn't need to be in parentheses. That could have just been a fucking separate paragraph. I watched her on the security cameras until I saw her reach the public dock about 100 meters away, go down the hallway to the embarkation area, then board the shuttle that was scheduled to leave in 21 minutes. Art sent me an acknowledgement as it slid into the shuttle's controls to guard the bot pilot again. You hearing this?
Nope.
Blah blah blah, she got on the shuttle. Art sent me an acknowledgement as it slid into the shuttle's controls to guard the bot pilot again. Art is in the shuttle that Tapan has gotten into. So we now can say for sure Art set all of this up.
Yep.
That's sure is something, so that's how bored Art is.
Yep.
Wow. But you know, it's such a good person, guys. I'd prepared for a hack of the security. I just loved the fact that the person was like, yeah, Murderbot's such an asshole, and you wrote it that way on purpose so that everybody hates it. And then Martha Wells is sitting there very clearly mortified, laughing nervously, because that's not what she intended at all. But she can't say that. It's the funniest goddamn thing.
Because that's how literally every fucking goddamn person describes Murderbot as an asshole. It is a piece of fucking shit asshole.
Yep. I'd prepared a hack for the security cameras that was much more sophisticated than the one I'd been using up to this point. It involved getting into the operational code and setting the systems on a tenth of a second delay, then deleting Tapan out and randomly replacing that part of the recording with pieces cut from earlier. This would work because the sex bot would be scanning the recordings the same way I would, using a body configuration scan. I didn't match sec unit standard anymore, but so what happened to the whole they can instantly recognize you anyways? So now we're back to saying that did work after saying it didn't work. I didn't match sec unit standard anymore, but the sex bot had plenty of time to scan my new configuration during that first meeting with Talasi. Right now, I wanted the sex bot's attention on me and not the public dock. I let the cameras track me out of the port and back toward the tube access. Then I started the hack. I was only 97% certain this meeting was a trap. Chapter 8. When I reached the small food service counter in the contractor district, a human was there who matched the image Tapan had sent to my feed. Want to grab me a ginger ale? I'm thirsty. Or what time is it? It's 10:30. Yeah, ginger ale, it's caffeine free. As I sat down at the table, he looked up at me, his expression nervous, sweat beading on his pale forehead. I said Tapan couldn't come, and sent his feed the brief recording Tapan had made with her interface. You good, little kitty boy? It was her standing next to me in the room at the hostel, holding my arm and explaining what the files could be given to me. Wow, I looked uncomfortable. Remember when Murderbot had a personality?
Yep.
Like anything even remotely resembling a personality? Like, goddamn. You wouldn't think that, yeah, the first two Murderbot books, as objectively badly as they are written, they're the golden age of this fucking series, because it's so fucking downhill from here on out. Platform Decay is so goddamn bad. It is fucking hilarious. I cannot wait for the last book to come out and be the most blatantly steaming pile of garbage anybody's ever read, and it makes everybody retroactively hate everything.
And then everybody actually starts looking into the writing just the way they do J.K. fucking Rowling. And they realize, oh shit, this shit's been baked into this fucking shit since day one.
It's literally inevitable. You know, like Sherlock, Season 3. The fact that we waited how many years, and then the first episode of the new thing was actively mocking the audience for trying to make the story work. And it's like, wow, man, congratulations on teaching everybody to hate your fucking guts. His gaze went inward as he reviewed the recording, then his body relaxed a little. He slid a memory clip over to me. I took it and also...
What the fuck is a memory?
Hold on! This dude... Are they even paying him? I don't think they're paying him. There is no reason that this dude did this. He didn't need to set up a meeting with them. He could have just... This could have been an email. He literally could have just emailed this.
Much like Platform Decay.
Yeah. Also, like, in the third book, or maybe at the end of this one, I'm pretty sure it's at the end of the third book, Murderbot mails shit to Preservation. This dude could have, like, unless he literally just managed to steal this yesterday, but except Japan had already said he'd sent them a thing. He could have just mailed this to them. He could have just emailed this to them and is instead just making them set a meeting with him at McDonald's or whatever for some fucking reason. Okay. I took it and checked the cameras. Nothing. No potential threats, no one showing interest in us. The counter served drinks with a lot of bubbles in them and fried protein in the shape of water fauna and flora. Everyone else was busy eating or talking. There was no one suspicious in the corridor or mall area outside, no one watching, no one waiting. This was not a trap. The human said uncertainly, "Should we order something to make it look like we're not, you know?" I told him, "No one's watching, you can leave," and pushed to my feet. I had to get back to the port. If this wasn't a trap, the real trap was somewhere else. But again, there's like no actual reason for there to be any trap. So we get a seed break. On the way back to the dock, I checked the schedule. The shuttle was now listed as delayed. As I reached the embarkation area, I was reviewing the security recording from the time Japan had boarded the shuttle. On visual, I spotted the sex bot coming toward me from the far end of the walkway. Also, let me rewind. I was reviewing the security recording from the time Japan had boarded the shuttle. The shuttle that Art is in. The shuttle that Art has control over. That little kitty.
Why are you doing this?
Because he wants to climb things. We just need somebody that can chop a tree that needs to be chopped anyways and just get us a single straight thing just for them to climb. Look at that little baby. He's just nuzzling it adorably. You want to come sit over here and meow or purr for the camera? Thank you. I love you so much you pay attention. Eclipse, that was for you. You didn't pay attention. I had gotten to the point in the recording where 2 humans with Port Authority identification had stopped the shuttle's departure and removed Japan. So Art did this on purpose! Art did this on purpose. Oh my fucking god. I can't wait. Someday, somebody, not me, is going to write a fic where Art is the big bad the whole time. And it will be delightful because, like, that's the only logical thing for a lot of shit in this series if Art is actually the villain in secret. That's not what we're supposed to come away thinking, though. But Art had control over the shuttle and just it was guarding the shuttle. It had complete control over this thing, and it let them take Japan on purpose. Because that's how it works. That's how this works retroactively.
Art doesn't make mistakes. Art thinks about 200 times faster than Murderbot even can. And how fast does Murderbot think in comparison to a human?
And as Sheepneep pointed out, claiming that Martha Wells claiming, and Art's slave owners in particular claiming Art doesn't make mistakes, despite it objectively making a mistake at the very start of the same story. That's literally just more dehumanization and slavery apologism. Mr. Lupin! He's like, okay, I'll tiptoe down. You have a whole tower. What about it is boring to you? Come here. Yeah, so Art purposefully let Japan get kidnapped because it is bored and it wants to put Murderbot in danger. I'm not kidding, that's the only fucking explanation for this. Art was in complete control of this shuttle and let Japan get taken because it's bored. a thing we explicitly got told at the start of the book for its motivations for helping Murderbot literally was that it is bored. Let me clean my glasses. You guys can all see what size font this is. It's like size 48 or something. If I take my glasses off, to be fair, I'm sitting like 3 feet away from it because I can't use the laptop as an actual laptop. But when I take my glasses off, my vision is so blurry that, like, if I squint, I mean, I know from looking at it with my glasses on that there's words here, but it's just like white with some very faint gray uneven stripes, because that's what this looks like right now. If I squint, the uneven stripes become slightly darker gray. Now I put my glasses back on. I had gotten to the point in the recording where 2 humans with Port Authority identification had stopped the shuttle's departure and removed Tapan. Art slid out of the shuttle and back into my feed. It said, if I had my armed drones, this would be easier. Except Art did that on purpose. No, blue's too nice of a color for this. Let's make it... Where was the button? Let's pick a different color. But all these colors are nice. Let's do Danny Phantom Green. Whoop. Oh. DP. So, yeah, Art just let that happen. For fun. 84% of the way into this book, and Art just let Tapan get kidnapped. Because it's bored. I'm not joking. That's the only explanation here, because this is how reading works. This is how stories work. Oh, I just found the other reusable shopping bags. They were just behind my keyboard. Okay. That's how this works. If we get told in the first book a character has, I don't know, a character, you know, I can just use this example. A character, couldn't do anything to I definitely couldn't stop them from taking Tapan, Murderbot. If I had my armed drones, this would be easier. There was definitely nothing I could do. Totally. Even though in this exact same story, it took complete control of a shuttle instantly, and there's nothing that it did this on purpose.
You can't make an all-powerful god have them comically badly fail at something extremely simple and then not have it be that they did it on purpose, especially when you word of God, including in interviews, say that Art is like perfect and thinks so much faster, and it calculates all this shit infinitely faster than a human can even think.
Yeah, Art did this on purpose, and that's how storytelling works, because not only from what we saw earlier in this, that it's fully capable of taking complete control over shuttles, meaning humans with Port Authority identification had stopped the shuttle's departure. It could have, A, bare minimum, closed the doors and locked them out, or, just taken control of the shuttle and made it fly away anyways. Until Tapan was in safety, and it chose not to do that. Because it's bored. And it wants to see Murderbot be forced to fight people, because Murderbot sees Tapan as its slave owner. Art slid out of the shuttle and back into my feed. Like it didn't just let all of this happen on purpose. When the sex bot reached me, I said, "Where is she?" "Into Lacey's private shuttle. I'll show you." I followed it along the walkway, then down the ramp that split off toward the private shuttle docks. Art said, "Why is it showing you where your human is?" What the fuck is Art's motivation for this shit? Art Art says, "Why is it showing you where your human is?"
Why is what?
Why is the sex slave showing Murderbot where the human is that has been kidnapped?
Gee, Art, I don't know.
I said, "Because Talasi doesn't want to pan. She wants me." Art was quiet as we went past the private shuttle slots toward the bigger, more expensive section at the end. Then it said, "Retrieve your human and make Talasi regret this." So it
But you know, guys, Colossus, the Forbin Project, is such a fucking Freudian slip for humanity. Martha Wells knows what it's like to write robots the way robots would actually exist in real life.
even though she's also a human. Even though her whole complaint is that humans keep deciding they know what robots would want. I, a human, have decided I know what robots would want, and I'm right. Because reasons. This isn't ironic or hypocritical in any way. I'm just the best. Also, Art is saying this after purposefully letting Tapan get kidnapped, so this is all but admitting, yeah, I did this on purpose because I want to see you killed. I want to see you forced to kill people. And or maybe get killed yourself for entertainment for me. I guess I will have to write a fic set during this where we literally just show Art doing this, including explicitly telling them where to find her and purposefully stopping and delaying the goddamn shuttle. Wow. We stopped in front of the access, and again, as I said at some point earlier in this, the whole point of this second book in the series is to force Murderbot, specifically through Art's actions, back into the mindset of a slave so that Murderbot forgets all these big notions of being free and having autonomy and being able to do what it wants. Art is here to make sure that Murderbot never thinks like that ever again and forces it back into the mindset of a slave who has nothing to hope for except at best dying to save slave owners, and it's working, and this is again reinforcing that. Art purposefully let Tapan. Why is there a character named Tapan and Talasi in the same thing? There are literally every other letter in the goddamn alphabet. Art purposefully let Tapan get kidnapped, specifically so that it could tell Murderbot, "Retrieve your human and make Talasi regret this," because it's playing with these people's lives, including Murderbot, like they're fucking dolls, because it's bored. We stopped in front of the access to a shuttle hatch. No one was outside, and most of the activity was down toward the other end of the docks. The sexbot turned to face me. It opened its hand, and I recognized a small object. It was a combat override module. It said, "They won't allow you aboard unless you let me install this." In my feed, Art said, "Ah." They wanted us in the shuttle so that they could dispose of the bodies. Or Tapan's body. Me, they obviously intended to keep. A combat override module contains code that will take over my systems, overriding. Wow, remember when Martha Wells at least grasped that you have to provide basic reminders of shit from the first book?
What?
And then never does this ever again? A combat override module contains code that will take over my system, overriding the governor module and the company factory set protocols, and placing me under the direct verbal or comm control of whoever the module designates. This was how Greycrest took over Deltfall sec units and tried to take over me. Wow. That's a genuinely good reminder of the plot of the first book in case people forgot or they picked this book up by accident. Wow. Remember when Martha Wells did the bare fucking minimum while also not doing the bare minimum for everything else in the story?
Especially because when is this in this story? What page are you on?
We're 85% of the way through.
So this reminder should have come up at the beginning of the book, and then again now to remind us that, hey, this is an established thing.
I said, if I accept that, will they release my client? In the feed, the sex bot whispered, you know they won't. Aloud, it said, yes. I turned and let it insert the module into my data port. In parentheses, for no good reason, the data port that Art had disconnected when it altered my configuration. With my governor module hacked, it had been the only way left to assert control over me, so disabling it had been a priority. Because God forbid we have stakes at any point in this whole series. End parentheses. The module clicked into place, and I had a moment of purely irrational fear. Art must have picked up on it because it said, please, my med system makes no mistakes. Except for the fact that Murderbot woke up in complete goddamn agony, bleeding, and lying in a pool of blood.
And was there for hours before it could even work up the fucking metal to turn his pain sensors down or whatever the fuck it was.
Yep. Nothing happened, and from the security camera I had control of, I saw that I managed to keep the relief out of my expression. The sex bot's expression was unit standard neutral, and I followed it into the shuttle. Okay, we're not supposed to be imagining how this other slave feels about doing this, and what they think of Murderbot voluntarily doing this, despite knowing it's not going to work. But we're not supposed to give a fuck about this person. No, the last book in the series won't be from their perspective. That would be silly. It's from Bharadwaj's perspective. Bharadwaj's perspective. Martha Wells doesn't... Yeah, we've been pronouncing it Bharadwaj. And that's pretty much correct, except the W is supposed to be pronounced like a V. Bharadwaj. Martha Wells pronounces it Bradwash. 2 syllables. She says Bradwash. It's literally pronounced Bharadwaj. 3 syllables. Yeah, 3 syllables. She tokenized as many ethnic-sounding names as she could in the first book for diversity baiting, and then didn't actually look up how they are actually pronounced. So when somebody who is pronouncing it more correctly than her asks her how to pronounce it, she says Bradwash. That's how racist she is. A human stood just inside the lock, armed, his eyes flicking nervously between me and the sex bot. He said, "Is it under control?" "Yes," the sex bot said. He stepped back and his jaw moved as he spoke into his feed. I couldn't hack anything without the sex bot knowing, so I waited. I kept my expression blank. I had no way of knowing what the combat override module was supposed to make me do, but I was assuming it would put me under Talasi's control. I suspected the humans and the sex bot weren't sure that was what the outward effect would be. How did they... what's the explanation for where they got this thing to begin with? Why wouldn't they have the comfort unit under this already?
Especially because that would stop it from complaining and giving it all the fucking stuff in its buffer about this is not the correct use of company equipment and you're voiding your warranty and bond and rental agreement and shit.
Yep.
And they could then force the sex trafficking victim to attack other humans.
Yep.
Which is assumedly against the fucking discount iRobot rules.
You mean just the 3 laws of robotics in general? Once we were through the lock, it cycled shut and a launch warning went through the feed, ending in an audible beep from the comm system. Talasi must have bribed someone for immediate clearance because there was a clunk... Wow. Talasi must have bribed someone for immediate clearance because there was a clunk as the lock disengaged and then the shuttle slid out of its slot. Wow, it's almost like Art could have just done that. It's almost like Art did this on purpose. I have you on my scan, Art said. The human led the way through the shuttle. It was a large model, and the access corridor went past hatchways to cabins and the engineering section before ending in a big compartment. There was cushioned bench seating against the walls and the acceleration chairs to the front, near the hatch that must have led to the forward part of the ship. There were 6 unknown humans in the room, 4 armed and 2 unarmed crew. One of the armed humans held Tapan by the shoulder and had a projectile weapon pressed to her head. Talisi stood up from a chair and looked me over with a smile. She said, "Take little Tapan to a cabin. I'll want to talk to her later about her work." Tapan's eyes were wide and frightened. I kept my expression blank. She tried to say, "Eden, I'm sorry, but the guard pulled her through another hatchway and down a corridor. I didn't react, since I wanted her out of the line of fire. I listened for the hatch to close, then focused on Talisi. She strolled toward me, thoughtful now. I guess the triumphant smile had been for Tapan's benefit. The 2 other unarmed humans were watching with nervous curiosity. The armed guards still looked cautious. To the sexbot, Talisi said, "You really think this is one of the units from the Ganaka pit incident?" It's so fucking funny that she just knows that, even though we just said, there was so much effort to cover this up, but also we didn't, except for the part where we didn't cover it up at all. And now I guess we're supposed to pretend this is a shocking twist, even though they literally said, "Yeah, we didn't stop anybody from knowing about it." The sexbot started to reply, and I said, "But we all know that wasn't an accident, don't we?" Why would they know that? Why are we pretending they know that?
What?
That wasn't an accident. Why would they know that? You are the only person, apparently, who's gone down there to dig through the shit. Let me get a drink. This is absurd. Now I had everybody's attention. I kept my gaze straight ahead, a good sec unit still under the control of the combat override module. Talisi stared at me, then her eyes narrowed. "Who am I talking to?" That was almost funny. "You think I'm a puppet? You know that's not the way we work." Talisi was beginning to be afraid. "Who sent you? Why is she afraid?"
And why are they not immediately killing it if they think it's not actually under their control? And why is Murderbot saying this shit while also pretending to be under control of the thing?
Because Martha Wells thinks that this is clever. Talisi was beginning to be afraid. "Who sent you?" I lowered my head to meet her gaze. "I came for my client." Talisi's jaw moved as she gave a command in the feed, and the sexbot started to shift sideways into a combat position. Art said, "The shuttle is clear of the port and moving into an orbit around the moon. Do you have a moment to let me in?" I said, "Be fast," and let Art in. I had the sensation again, my head shoved under water, being temporarily incapacitated as Art used me as a bridge to reach the bot controlling the shuttle. It was quick, but the sexbot had time to punch me in the jaw. Talisi must have ordered that. It wasn't the way a unit would attack another unit. It hurt, but only in the way that would piss me off. Because, pain doesn't actually matter, because Martha Wells is A, ableist, and B, a shit writer. You can actually put those in any order you want.
It's also just more racism by saying that if you hurt a black man, you're not actually hurting a person. You're just making an animal angrier.
Yep.
Which is what all this shit is.
Literally.
Like also that Murderbot's also physically towering over Talisi.
Yep.
It's the biggest, scariest thing in every room it enters.
Yep. When I didn't react immediately, Talisi relaxed and grinned. "I like a mouthy bot. This is going to be interesting." Art was in the shuttle systems and I was clear. I caught the sexbot's arm and flung it across the room toward the 3 armed guards. Also, what does Art being in the shuttle systems have to do with anything? Because it's not doing anything.
Why did it not stay in there to begin with?
It's in this shuttle systems now.
Is this not the same shuttle? Okay.
No.
But also
that was a public bus
to go into and out of the other shuttle.
No, it didn't. Yeah, it's almost like Art's doing all this on purpose. Art was in the shuttle systems, and I was clear. I caught the sexbot's arm and flung it across the room toward the 3 armed guards. One went down, one stumbled into a chair, the third started to lift his weapon. I knocked Talesi out of my way and stepped on the sex bot as I went over it, thumping it down to the deck. I grabbed the muzzle of the energy weapon and shoved it upright just as he fired. The discharge struck the curved ceiling. I ripped it out of his grasp, dislocating his shoulder and at least 3 fingers, and slammed his head down on the console. The guard who had already fallen to the deck had a projectile weapon, and I felt 2 impacts, one to my side and one to my thigh. Now that's the kind of attack that actually hurts. But not later. I extended my right arm and fired my inbuilt energy weapon, catching him with 2 bolts in the chest. I stepped sideways to avoid an energy weapon blast from the guard who had fallen into the chair, and my 3rd shot hit him in the shoulder. I had the blast set to narrow, and they created deep burn wounds that usually incapacitated humans rapidly with shock and pain and, having holes burned into their chest cavities. Are you hearing this part? What its energy weapons can do? It's set to be a narrow thing, so that burns deep holes in your chest cavity, which is where it's shooting you.
Okay.
I pivoted and threw the captured gun as a distraction. The first unarmed human was on the deck, a smoking wound in her back. The guards who had missed me had shot her. The second flung herself across the compartment to try to grab a fallen projectile weapon, so I shot her in the shoulder and the leg. The sex bot rolled to its feet and charged me. I caught it, went down on my back, and flung it off and over my head. I twisted around and up to my knees, but couldn't get all the way up due to the wound in my right thigh. The sex bot shoved upright and grabbed its leg, and I grabbed its leg and popped the knee out of the socket. It went down, and I took out its left shoulder joint. Slamming it down to the deck, I turned to see Talesi reaching for one of the fallen weapons. I said, "Touch that weapon, and I'll take it away from you and insert it into your rib cage." She froze. She was panting from fear, eyes staring. She's just been over there doing nothing. I said, "Tell your sex bot to stop fighting." It was still struggling to get up, and it was just going to hurt itself further, especially if it made me mad again. So Murderbot has dislocated this person's knee and shoulder on opposite sides of its body, and is saying, "I will willfully hurt it even more and torture it even more if it makes me angry." And by it makes it angry, it means is forced to continue following orders that it doesn't want to do, because this person asked Murderbot for help. Talesi straightened slowly, her jaw working, and the sex bot relaxed. I said, "Art, cut off Talesi's feed." "Done," Art said. Talesi winced as her feed went down. I told Talesi, see, this is where we could have just said, "I told her." "Give the sex bot a verbal command to obey me until further notice. Try to give it any other command and I'll rip your tongue out." Talesi huffed out a breath, then said, "Unit, obey the crazy rogue sec unit until further notice." To me, she said, "You need to get better threats." I put a hand on the nearest chair seat and shoved myself to my feet. "I don't make threats. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do." And Martha Wells thinks that's really, really cool and genius. And it's like, you understand that's what a threat is, right? That's what a fucking threat is. Like, she really, really thinks she's the fucking bee's knees with that one. Her jaw hardened. 2 of the humans in the room had stopped breathing. The unarmed one that the guard had shot while aiming for me, and the first one I had shot. Talesi hadn't noticed.
Are you saying that they're dead or they're holding their breath?
They're dead.
They're
dead.
Such a stupid ass way to say that.
Yeah. You mean because it's a tense scene and sometimes people in tense scenes will hold their breath? Okay. 2 of the humans in the room had stopped breathing, the unarmed one that the guard had shot while aiming for me, and the first one I had shot. Talesi hadn't noticed. I looked down at the sex bot, which looked up at me. "Stay down," I said. It sent me an acknowledgement. I stepped over it, grabbed Talesi's arm, and dragged her down the corridor to the cabin where her guard had taken Tapan. She said quickly, "So you're a free agent, right? I can give you a job, whatever you want." I thought, "You don't have anything I want." I said, "All you had to do was give them the fucking files and none of us would be in this situation." The look she threw at me was startled, incredulous. I didn't sound like her idea of a sec unit, rogue or otherwise, I guess. You notice how Murderbot says, "You don't have anything I want"? Yeah, in Platform Decay, Martha Wells is convincing us that Murderbot doesn't want anything and is trying to convince us all that it has never wanted anything. The look blah 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 blah. Humans should really do more research. That's a really fucking funny statement coming from Martha Wells, who literally doesn't even know how to pronounce the name she gave her character, and also she doesn't do any research ever about anything. She also doesn't know what the word non-binary means. She doesn't know that hypothermia is a thing. She doesn't do any fucking research.
She thinks a kilo is short for kilometer instead of a kilogram. There was one in Platform Decay too, wasn't there?
It was something absurd. There were operating manuals that would have warned her not to fuck with us. Talisi stopped at the closed hatch. Also, saying that humans should do more research, there were operating manuals that would tell you not to fuck with us. That has nothing to do with her expecting you to sound different. So that's just a non sequitur. Talisi stopped at the closed hatch and said, "Bassam, it's me," and hit the release. The door slid up. Tapan was half sprawled across the bunk on the far wall, blood spreading across the flower pattern on her t-shirt. Drops of it spattered on the brown skin of the bare arm pressed against the wound in her side. Her raspy breath sounded loud in the small cabin. The bodyguard stared at us, eyes wide. "He panicked when he heard the shots," Talisi gasped. "You can't—" "Oh yeah, I could." Also, like, what's the dude just doing standing here? He just shot Tapan and then just hanging out? Not pointing the gun at the door, just hanging out for some reason. Also, we're supposed to pretend Murderbot didn't hear that at all. I swung to Lacey to shield me as the bodyguard brought up his weapon. Multiple shots hit her back, but I had already crushed her windpipe. I took another projectile in the chest as I crossed the cabin, threw him against the wall, jammed my arm up under his chin, and triggered my energy weapon. I stepped back and let his body drop. And yeah, Tapan dies just in the middle of that paragraph there. That's why Talisi, that's why you didn't remember it. It's in the middle of that fucking paragraph.
Amazing.
I turned away from it and leaned over to Pan. I said stupidly, "It's me." Her eyes were shut and she was breathing through gritted teeth. I clamped my hand over the wound to stop the bleeding and said, "Art, help." Art said, "I've been guiding the shuttle toward the transit ring where I can dock with it myself. ETA is 17 minutes. Med system is prepping for your arrival." I sank down beside Tapan. She was just conscious enough to reach over and squeeze my hand. I pulled the useless combat override out of the back of my neck and tossed it away. What hand is she squeezing, though? I had made a huge mistake, which had seemed blindingly obvious in hindsight. I had known the invitation to exchange the signing bonus for the files was a trap from the beginning, and I should have convinced Rami and the others not to return to Ravi Hyral. The augmented human security consultant I was pretending to be would have done that. I was used to taking orders from humans and trying to mitigate whatever damage their stupid ideas did to them, but I had wanted to work with a group again. I had enjoyed how they had listened to me. I had put my need to get to Ravi Hyral above the safety of my clients.
Bad slave, bad. You have your own wants and desires, how dare you?
And also, once again, to remind everybody, this is all Art's idea, and Art orchestrated literally everything going on in this goddamn book. I was just as shit at being a security consultant as any human. Oh no, Martha Wells will try to insist you forget she ever fucking said that. She will double down from here on out on you should never hire somebody to do security work for you or any job at all. You should just get slaves to do it for you. Martha Wells will double down on that forever now. This is what a hilarious statement. We are at 90%. Chapter 9. By the time we were on approach to the transit ring, Art had cleared us with the ring's port authority. Shuttles weren't supposed to be able to dock with transports without advance notice, but Art took care of approach permission and forged his captain's signature to pay the fine for not giving prior notice of the scheduled trip. They didn't suspect anything. Nobody knew transports could have bots sophisticated enough to fake being human in the feed. I sure hadn't known it. The locks weren't compatible, and also you notice how Art can do all this shit, but it's never done anything to help anybody in any way, even though it can? The locks weren't compatible, but Art solved that problem by pulling the shuttle into an empty module meant for lab space. It sat us down, filled the module with atmosphere, and then cycled our lock. I got upright and carried Tapan out and up the access into the main section. Comfort Unit followed me. We haven't asked this person what they would like to be called. We are just referring to them as their fucking slave designation of Comfort Unit. The med system was ready by the time I walked in and laid Tapan down on the platform. Drones whizzed around me and I picked up the med system's feed. Also, why is the Comfort Unit alive at this point? Because Sec units get instantly fucking killed by their governor module anytime that they are with outside a certain distance from their slave owners, current slave owners. And if all of the slave owners are dead, that means they also get fried. But I guess that very conveniently, for some fucking reason, does not apply to the sex slaves, even though that would also be in their programming that they have to stay within a certain radius or they die. But Martha Wells forgot that was a rule, so
I do remember that rule.
That's literally from book 1.
I didn't know if they died, Murderbot died.
Yeah.
That could have been used as an actual self-preservation reason for it to keep at least one of them alive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just conveniently forgotten because Martha Wells forgot that, and yeah. The med system was ready by the time I walked in and laid Tapan down on the platform. Also, we never questioned where Tapan got this sex slave, and we never do anything to stop the source of slaves on this place. Because, why would we give a fuck about other slaves? The med system was ready by the time I walked in and laid Tapan down on the platform. Drones whizzed around me, and I picked up the med system's feed instruction to remove her shoes and clothes. As the cradle closed around her, I sank down beside the platform. She was out now, the med system keeping her under while it finished its assessment and started to work. 2 medical drones flew around me, one diving in toward my shoulder and the other poking at the wound in my thigh. I ignored them. A larger drone flew in, carrying Tapan's bag, her blood-stained jacket, and my knapsack. Art flashed me a view of the other drones still inside the shuttle. 4 of the humans in the shuttle were still alive, though unconscious. Art had sent drones to scrub and sterilize away my fluids and Tapan's blood from the shuttle interior. Art had already wiped the bot pilot's memory and deleted any security data. So again, just continuing to fuck with other slaves' minds, and we're not supposed to have a problem with that. Because, Check's notes, they don't speak English as well as Art does. So therefore, they're not people, and therefore they don't matter. Because racism, ableism, white supremacy, slavery apologism. It was also chatting casually with Transit Ring Launch Authority with a forged feed signature from one of the dead humans. You notice how Art's doing all this shit, and yet supposedly just couldn't stop them from kidnapping Tapan. It did all that on purpose. I watched as the drones finished and retreated, then Art sealed the shuttle again and launched it with a filed flight plan back to Ravi Hyral. The onboard bot pilot would land it full of terribly injured humans, and no one would know they hadn't done it to each other until they were all conscious and told their stories. Though maybe some wouldn't want to tell the story of how they had helped kidnap another human. And yet, Art's doing all that shit, but we're supposed to just pretend in this story that it just couldn't help but let them kidnap Tapan, almost like it definitely did that on purpose. Whatever happened, it would give us all time to get out of here. I asked Art, how did you know to do that? Though I already knew the answer. It knew I knew, but it said episode 179 of The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon. Comfort unit knelt beside me. Can I help? No. The medical drones were clamped onto me now, digging for the projectiles, and I was leaking onto Art's pristine med system floor. The anesthetic was making me numb. How did you know I was one of the Ganaka pit units? It said, I saw you get off the tube access in that section. There's nothing else down there now. There's nothing else down there. It's not in the historical database anymore, but the humans still tell each other horror stories about it. Wow, yeah, because they didn't do anything about it. If you were really a rogue and not under orders to go there, then there was an 86% chance that you went there because you were one of the units involved. I believed it. Drop your wall. It did, and I rode the feed into its brain. I could feel Art with me, alert for traps. But I found the governor module, rendered it null, and slid back out into my body again. And that's literally as easy. That's literally how easy it is to free another slave. And also the whole drop your feed wall. That's not actually an issue because Murderbot can just hack through that shit with no effort at all. Are you paying attention? We just got to the whole. It literally takes literally one single sentence to free somebody from a governor module.
Yep.
The comfort unit had fallen back, sitting down on the deck with a thump, staring at me. I said, go away. Don't let me see you again. Don't hurt anyone on this transit ring or I'll find you. So instead of saying, hey, thanks for all the help you gave me because you purposefully revealed yourself to me against orders. Nope, it's just fuck off and never let me see you again. If I hear you hurt anybody, including in self-defense, I'll kill you. It shoved upright, unsteady. More of Art's drones flicked through the air, making sure it didn't try to damage anything, herding it toward the door. It followed the drones out into the corridor. Through Art's feed, I watched it go through to the main hatch, where the lock cycled and it went out into the transit ring. So they're literally just abandoning this person who has been a slave this whole time into the very same goddamn country where everybody knows that they are a slave and where they have no rights. Because if you are rich enough to own a sex slave, people are going to know about that because that's going to be something you're going to show off. People know this person is a sex slave and Murderbot and Art have just fucking abandoned them here, and Martha Wells wants us to think this is so nice. This is kind.
No, this is just cool and what it deserves.
Art watched it walk away through its lock camera. It said, I thought you might destroy it.
It's disappointed.
Art is literally disappointed that Murderbot did not murder the slave. Too tired and numb to talk, I signaled negative through the feed. It hadn't had a choice, and I hadn't broken its governor module for its sake, so Martha Wells said, oh shit, I have to make sure everybody knows that freeing slaves isn't the point of this series, even though I've just taken one step forward that everybody's been waiting for, but I have to immediately take a dozen steps back and assure you all, no. This isn't going to be about freeing slaves. Don't be silly. I did it for the 4 comfort units at Ganaka Pit who had no orders and no directive to act and had voluntarily walked into the meat grinder to try to save me and everyone else left alive in the installation. Meaning their slave owners, a thing they did in fact have orders to follow because, we literally just mentioned them again. Those company factory default orders, which is to protect your slave owners and humans. Those are part of the default orders. But Martha Wells is telling us, yes, the slaves who were literally forced to kill themselves to protect their rapists, that was actually adorable and heartwarming, and that's the only reason Murderbot just freed this slave right here, who never did a single thing wrong and actively aided Murderbot, risking dying instantly to do so. Murderbot did not free the slave for their own sake. It did it to honor the memory of the sex slaves who were forced to kill themselves and it's not being framed as they were forced to kill themselves and nobody should be forced to do that. No, it's being framed as it was a positive. They were some of the good ones. That's it. Art said, "Now get on the other platform. The shuttle will land soon and there is a great deal of evidence to destroy." Let me just, flip. Okay, we're on page 93%. Just wanted to see how many things I have to flip to get up a percentage. When Tapan awoke, I was sitting on the med system's platform holding her hand. The med system had taken care of my wounds, and it had cleaned off all the blood. The projectiles that had hit me and the energy bursts from my own projectiles had left holes in my clothes, and Art had produced a new set for me from its recycler. It was basically Art's crew uniform without the logos. Pants with lots of sealable pockets, a long-sleeve shirt, and a collar just high enough to cover my data port, and a soft hooded jacket. All of it either dark blue or black. I fed my bloody clothes into the recycler so the waste reclamation levels would be neutral and Art wouldn't have to forge its log. Tapan blinked up at me, confused. She said, and squeezed my hand. The drugs made her expression bleary. "What happened?" I said, "They tried to kill us again. We had to leave. We're back on the transit ring on my friend's ship." Her eyes widened as she remembers. She winced and muttered, "Fuckers." "Your friend was telling the truth. He gave me your files." I held up the memory clip and showed her. I was putting it into the interface pocket in her bag. I'd checked it already for malware or tracers. "This ship has to leave soon. I need you to call Rami and Maro to come meet us outside the embarkation zone." "Okay." She fumbled at her ear and I handed her the blue feed interface. One of Art's drones had found it in Lacey's pocket. She took it, started to put it back in her ear, and hesitated. "They're gonna be so mad." "Yeah, they are. I thought they would be so glad to have her alive it wouldn't occur to them to be angry." She winced again. "I'm sorry, I should have listened to you." "It wasn't your fault." Her brow crinkled. "I kind of think it was." "It was my fault." "It's both our faults then, but we won't tell anybody," Tapan decided and wiggled the interface into her ear. And also, just so many things. And then we have another scene break. Any comments?
Nope.
I did a quick walkthrough of the areas of the ship I had used to make sure nothing was out of place. Art's drones had already come through, taking Tapan's bloody clothes to be cleaned and sterilizing surfaces so any attempt to collect trace evidence would fail. Not that Art intended to be here when the investigation started. We were all leaving immediately, but Art believed in contingency plans. I started to remove the comm interface Art had given me. "You need to clean this too." "No," Art said. "Keep it. Maybe we'll come within range of each other again." And at this point, after everything that's in this story and everything that happens later, I have to assume that Art has put shit in there to fuck with Murderbot's brain. The med system had already sterilized itself and deleted the records of my configuration change and the emergency trauma treatments to both me and Tapan. I was waiting for her when she came out of the bath facility. Drones followed her to clean away any traces of her presence, and she said, "I'm ready." She had stuffed her old clothes into her pack and was wearing fresh ones. She still looked a little bleary. We walked out together and the lock sealed behind us. I had the cameras in the embarkation zone and Art was already doctoring the security recordings on its lock to erase our presence. We met Rami, Maro, and the rest of their group at a food stand outside the embarkation zone. Rami had messaged me that they had already bought passes on a passenger transport leaving within the hour. They greeted Tapan enthusiastically, with tears and admonishments to each other not to squeeze her too hard. I'd told them already not to talk about it in public. Rami turned and handed me a hard currency card.
$1 whole.
$1 whole. Murderbot just got paid $1 whole. "Your friend Art said this was a good way to pay you." Right. Art said, "Hey, you guys, you can pay it $1 whole. Just give it $1. Right. I took it and tucked it into a sealable pocket. They were all watching me now, and it was a little nerve-wracking. Rami said, "So you're going?" I had my eye on a cargo transport heading the right direction. With luck, I should be leaving within minutes of their departure. Yes, I should hurry. "Can we hug you?" Morrow let go of Tapin and faced me. I didn't step back, but it must have been obvious the answer was no. Morrow nodded. Okay, this is for you. She wrapped her arms around herself and squeezed. And you think, oh, well, that's a step in the right direction for Murderbot having his bodily autonomy respected. Nope. Nope. It's not. I said, I've got to go, and walked away down the mall. Fading, already disengaging from its lock, Art said in my feed, be careful. Find your crew, as in go crawling back to your goddamn slave owners, because that's explicitly what that means. Because Art refers to Murderbot's slave owners, the preservation team, the people who explicitly, literally own Murderbot as their property. Art refers to them as Murderbot's crew, and has literally spent this entire goddamn story reconditioning Murderbot and brainwashing Murderbot into worshipping them again and wanting to go crawling back to them, and is ordering Murderbot, go crawling back to your slave owners. Find your fucking slave owners. Huh?
Every time we say that, it's gonna get Chris fucking Daughtry stuck in my head.
What? You can't just say the...
Just like that, now I'm crawling back to you. Just like you said I would now. Swallowing my pride and I'm crawling back to you.
I don't think I've heard this song.
I played it when we were walking to the store.
Put whatever section.
Yeah, it's a song about breaking up and saying you'll be back. No, I won't. And then he goes crawling back. But yeah.
Okay, so literally. Okay, so I get, what is it? Is it called Crawling Back to You, I'm guessing?
It might even just be called Crawling.
So look up Crawling Back to You by Chris Daughtry, I guess. I tapped the feed in acknowledgement because if I tried to say anything else, I was going to sound stupid and emotional. I didn't know what I was going to do now, if I was going to go ahead with my plan or not. I had hoped finding out what had happened at Ganaka Pit.
Oh, never mind. I remembered. Hi, I got a commercial for audio. That's a first. I remembered I have to open YouTube in an incognito tab on Firefox. Otherwise, it'll say, let me open that in the app for you. No. Nope.
Pause. So, yeah. Yep, that sums it up. That's literally the fourth book in this series. Also, you notice how
we'd save you a seat. It was right, and she was right, and
she did say that. Also, you notice how that I can just say without having to do mental math that it is book 4? Have you noticed that? We get to book 4, where Murderbot goes back, crawling back to its slave owners.
You mean only because you call them by the book number?
Yeah.
And that's the only way
and then,
to keep track of the plot, because if you try to say what the title is, the titles are so fucking useless.
Mm-hmm. But, like, just the fact that after book 4 is when we start getting all of these fuck-ups in the timeline and things stop just happening in simple chronological order. Because that's when we get, like, compulsory, I'm pretty fucking sure, after that. And then we get...
After
I have my list. Hold on, I have a notepad saved here. No, I can't open it. Wait, without any of the video. Okay, I saved the video. Okay, I just won't check, I guess. I'm pretty sure that's after that. But yeah, anyways, yeah, where are we at? I didn't know what I was going to do now, if I was going to go ahead with my plan or not. I had hoped finding out what had happened at Ganaka Pit would clear everything up, but maybe revelations like that only happened in the media. And it's like, no, Martha Wells. You're not okay, either this story's not supposed to be realistic, so we can't complain about plot holes and sci-fi shit that you fucked up, but also it is totally realistic, and stories only have meaningful endings in the media. So which is it? Are we not supposed to take it seriously or think it's realistic? Or are we supposed to think it's realistic when you say, yeah, that didn't accomplish anything because that only happens in the media, which is what we're fucking reading right now, that you wrote. You can just not write a bad story, you know that. Also, again, I have to emphasize, in case anybody forgot, Murderbot going into the pit did not confirm or deny literally any questions that it or we had about its backstory. We literally got no confirmation that it was actually there at all. We didn't even get any implications that it might have been there. And this is after Martha Wells went out of her way at the start of the story to instill doubt in us that maybe it wasn't actually there. And then she didn't prove that it was. All we needed was a single fucking 2-second clip of security footage that shows Murderbot. And explicit confirmation that Murderbot does not just look like every other sec unit. That's all she needed to do, but she didn't do that. So we're just supposed to accept that, yeah, Murderbot was definitely at Ganaka Pit. That was totally conclusive, even though she went out of her way to make us doubt that, and then didn't prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, as far as I'm concerned, Ganaka Pit is not an event that Murderbot was actually involved in, because we literally got no proof that it was in any way. Speaking of which, I needed to grab some more downloads before my next transport left. It was going to be a long trip. Oh, okay, we're at the end. So, 5% of this ebook is just taken up by stuff at the end. Wow. Wow, that's fucking funny. Okay, anyways, that's the second book in the fucking series. The Golden Age, when Murderbot had the slightest bit of personality and we had tiny bits of actual character interactions. God damn. And this is very shallow and badly written, and this is still miles better than fucking Platform Decay. So that's goddamn hilarious. Anyways, any parting comments for the end of book 2? So the next time we're going to be moving on to book 3?
I can't wait to figure out what the fuck the plot of book 3 is, because none of these plots ring any bells. Even at fact, I read all of them. Mm-hmm. And so many people have read them multiple times and still cannot tell you what the plot is.
Yep. But unlike most of the people in the fandom, we don't say, yeah.
I don't remember any details, therefore nothing badly written could have ever happened. I don't remember that happening, therefore it didn't happen.
Even when I'm showing people pages. Okay. Anyways, yeah. June 12th, 2026. Next time we'll be back, we'll be reading the third book. Bye-bye.